the EMP Commission plan gives highest priority to protecting the national power grid. But the plan also entails protecting other critical infrastructures as well, all of the critical infrastructures: transportation, communications, banking, finance, food, and water. The electric grid gets the highest priority because it is a keystone infrastructure. Our society is an electronic civilization. Nothing will run in this society. Soon, everything, directly or indirectly, depends on electricity. And if the electric grid goes down, within days, all the other critical infrastructures will come crashing down too, and we're plunged into the 19th century or earlier. So, while the plan covers all the other infrastructures, and there's a lot of detail in the very thick EMP Commission report on how to protect them, that national power grid is the most important thing. And the heart of the national power grid, the most important thing to protect there, are several hundred big transformers. These transformers are not manufactured in this country anymore, unfortunately. There's only 2 places in the world that make them for export. And it takes 18 months to make one of these big transformers. This country can't survive 18 months without electricity. And if we lose those several hundred key transformers, we will be without electricity. The national power grid won't work without them, and it can't be brought back without them. So a number of possibilities are available for how do you protect those big transformers. One idea the Commission had was to have spares, that we should buy spare transformers, at least for these several hundred key, absolutely indispensable ones. And the spares could be kept in metal sheds that would serve as Faraday cages to protect them, not hooked up to the grid, but in place so they could be hooked up. That's probably the most expensive and costliest solution, but even that doesn't cost a great deal of money, compared to saving our society. There are more cost-effective solutions. Surge arresters. There's a kind of surge arrestor that is under development that the Commission looked at, and it looks like it would work against even super EMP weapons, the surge arrestor. And it costs a small fraction of what a big transformer costs, and these things can be mass produced very quickly. Probably within a year, if we went the surge arrestor route, we could protect all of these several hundred big transformers for as little as $100 million. $100 million to protect those several hundred big transformers. And that would take off the table the threat to killing 200 million Americans from EMP. Now, it would still be if that's all we did, it would still be a painful and protracted catastrophe, and it would take us months to recover from it. But we probably wouldn't end up having the massive loss of life that would happen now if we do absolutely nothing about EMP. If we spend more money and harden more of the grid, put more surge arresters in to protect more transformers, redesign SCADAs, that's another thing that we can do. There are these things called system control and data acquisitions system. They are little mini computers that have been used to substitute for manpower. And there are millions and millions of these things ubiquitous throughout all the critical civilian infrastructures now. Where a man used to be used to turn a valve or to push a button back in the old days, now you've got these little mini computers that monitor how water is flowing through the utility pipelines, or how electricity is flowing into a big transformer, or how traffic control lights are working, how rail systems are working, how transportation systems are working for aircraft in airport terminals. They're everywhere. And these things are extremely vulnerable to EMP. But the Commission found, and before it was terminated, we were actually working on an EMP-proof SCADA. We also found that there were ways of hardening the SCADAs. In some cases, some of these SCADAs, it would only take, we found in tests in the EMP simulators that there was a fuse that was extremely vulnerable to EMP. But if you just replace that fuse with another fuse that costs only 5 cents more, that it would make the SCADA 100 times more harder against the EMP effect. So they're really low-cost solutions to protecting these SCADAs ubiquitous throughout the system. And so those are some examples: protecting the big transformers, protecting the SCADA systems that would go a long way toward taking this threat off the table. And it would take not just the EMP Commission plan would work not just against EMP. The plan was crafted to work against the full spectrum of threats to the critical civilian infrastructures. It would also protect those infrastructures against cyber threats like computer viruses, against physical sabotage, and against natural disasters like hurricanes. And it would also have economic benefits, by improving the grid so it would not be so fragile to eliminate things like brownouts in California that are so costly, or that happen on the east coast of the United States that are so costly, and go a long way toward protecting us. And I had mentioned earlier, let me talk about some of the other proposals or solutions that the EMP Commission has. A lot of it doesn't involve technology. People get the idea, because I have talked kind of at length here about hardening the system against EMP. We're not trying to put the whole country into a Faraday cage. I'd say 90% of the EMP Commission's recommendations don't have anything to do with buying new technology or hardening, but it's simply using common sense and coming up with good planning to take advantage of resources that we already have. For example, food and water, feeding the American people and providing water to the American people. This is going to be an urgent matter in the aftermath of an EMP attack. And right now, the Department of Defense has contingency plans if there is a famine in Africa as a result of a hurricane or a great tidal wave, to go to Africa or to go to Southeast Asia and to rescue the people there by providing food and water to them. I think the American people will be surprised to find that there are no contingency plans to feed and provide water to the American people in the event of a great catastrophe in this country on the scale of an EMP attack that affects the whole nation. That's something that ought to be done and can be done. The military and the government has vast stores of water and emergency food supplies that ought to be, we ought to have plans for taking care of our own people in addition to foreign actors. And that's not going to cost any extra money. It's not buying extra new technology or anything. It's simply a thing that responsible people should do. Diesel-electric locomotives are inherently robust against EMP, and many thousands of them are likely to survive in the aftermath of an EMP attack. A single diesel-electric locomotive can be used to power up a whole town, or provide enough electricity to run a hospital, or to keep the food in the food warehouses from spoiling. The difference between 200 million Americans surviving or dying could be a simple thing as, are we doing anything to protect the food that's currently in our regional warehouses? That's the 30 to 60-day food supply that our country depends upon. If the temperature control systems in those warehouses fail as a result of an EMP attack, we lose the food and our ability to feed the American people. So let's take steps to protect those things by increasing the amount of fuel that's provided to those emergency generators so that they can operate past an EMP crisis, or by having a plan in place to make sure that those surviving diesel-electric locomotives go to those food warehouses so that they can provide continuous electricity to that place, to telecommunications node, and the hospitals, so that we can have rapid recovery from an EMP effect. And these are just a handful of the common sense kinds of solutions that are part of the EMP Commission plan for protecting the country.